You want me to go and find a defendant for a criminal charge on my own? Okay. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I have just finished my last day at my mini-pupillage, so I thought I would sit down and tell you how it went. So I had my mini-pupillage for a week at Park Square Barristers in Leeds. They're like pretty darn good in the Northern Circuit, so it was a real pleasure to have my mini-pupillage with them. So the way I got my mini-pupillage was in my first year I had a link day. So at York University for law, everybody sort of gets a link day in their first year, which is basically 1 day's worth of work experience. You put your preferences down of like whether you want to be a solicitor or a barrister, what area of law, and then basically they go and sort it out for you, and then you just go to that 1 day of work experience. I did 1 day obviously at Park Square Barristers in my first year. It was like June this time last year. I did it in crime with Matthew Harding. It was actually a really good time. And one of my friends, Cassie, as well, so it was kind of fun to do it with her and also with Matthew, because he was like cracking banter left, right and centre. He was like a really fun person to have done it with. So basically I had a really good time doing that 1 day's work experience, and must have, you know, impressed them to somewhat, because basically they asked me back and said would I want to do a week's worth of work experience, do like a mini pupillage in my second year. So I was like, obviously, yes. This time around I really wanted to do something different than crime, because I had done work experience in criminal law with the CPS, with obviously Park Square first time around with a few other people, so I kind of wanted to experience something different. So I requested to do civil, and I kind of ended up doing bits of both actually, because on the very first day they didn't have any civil, so they were like, you're gonna do crime again, and I was like, that's fine. Yeah, so I feel like I'm gonna talk you through my typical day of how it went, because it's basically the same every day depending on obviously the cases, but the gist was the same. And then I'm gonna sort of kind of go through some of the best stories, the best one-liners, just some of the highlights of the week. So because it's in Leeds and I had to travel to get there, and they kind of wanted me in anything from 9 to 9:30, it meant that I had to leave here at 7:30, so I kind of had to get up like 6:30-ish every day. Leave here, it was a half-an-hour bus ride to get to the station, half-an-hour train to get to Leeds, and a 10-minute walk to get to Chambers. Then, so the first stop is obviously I go to Chambers. So yeah, then we go to court. So everything was pretty much in the Crown Court in Leeds, which is literally, the way the setup is in Leeds is there's a square that's like a park, and then round the four walls of this park is like rows, I guess, of like nice terrace houses type looking buildings, and each one is either a solicitor's office or barrister chambers or legal aid or stuff like that. And then you literally go 100 metres up the road and you have all of the court, so it's all very like close knit. So basically I'd walk my barrister to court, this 100-metre like journey, and just chat. Basically, because I had a different person each day, I would introduce myself to them, obviously talk to them, be like, this is where I'm at in my studies, what have you done, background, bond basically for that 5-minute walk. Then when you get to court, you've got to obviously queue up. Most of the times we could just waltz in because we're legal rather than public, so you get, it's like being at the airport but getting to go in the diplomatic line. You just get to like breeze through, and then obviously you have to have your bag checked. If you have water, you've got to take a sip of it, and then you get scanned, and then that's it, you're in the court, right? So the thing is with Leeds Crown Court is it's on many floors, and the barristers sort of like rooms where they get changed and hang out are at the very top floor, and half the courts I was in were either the bottom floor or the first floor, so it's stairs all day. It was stairs. I think I did something like 17,000 steps every day pretty much. My legs were dead. So basically the first thing is when we get to court, go out to the barristers' rooms. They would like get changed. All it really is they put the robes on and then they get all official. And then they go and sign in, so they get paid. They say that every time. It's like, I feel like they all have a very rehearsed line about when they go in to like sign on, because they're always like, oh, this is how we get paid, the most important bit of the day. And then they go like sit in the lunchroom. So there's 3 big tables in this big lunchroom, and at the very back there's like tea and coffee and snacks and stuff. And it's like the Park Square table at the very end of the room, and like you can't sit there unless you're from Park Square. It reminds me of Mean Girls so much.
So that's against the rules, and you can't sit with us. You can't sit with us!
We'd walk in there, you'd have a chat, then whoever I was with that day would be like, oh, you know, so-and-so, this is Chelsea, da 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 da, she's doing this, that and the other, introduce me to a load of people. Then this is the thing with barristers, they have good chat. Like within 2 minutes of knowing them, they're cracking like good jokes with you, and then they'll be like really, really friendly with you all day, which is what I like, really, really like that. You pretty much sit there and wait to be called. Then on the tannoy, they'd call like so-and-so for whatever case. You'd go down to the right court, you would either collect the defendant, depending on what kind of case it was, either speak to them. So sometimes we would take them into like a meeting room. I get to like sit in and help advise them. You basically explain the case to them, explain what's going to happen before going to trial, or that particular bit of the trial or whatever. Then we'd either go into the court, or we would skip that whole bit, and sometimes you just go straight into the court and not have to deal with the defendant. And then wait for the judge to come. So depending on whether it was a really busy court or not, sometimes I got to sit behind the barristers. So if I did, every time I did that, the judge was always like, who are you? And then you have to stand up and be like, oh, Your Honour, I'm blah, blah, blah. So yeah, and then basically we'd sit there. We'd normally be in court by anything from 9:30 till 10, and then we'd stay there probably until about 1. Lunches from 1 till 2. And then I would come back obviously after lunch, after sitting in the park and having my lunch. I'd come back and you'd have trials and stuff until like 4:35, and obviously I'd go home, so I'd be home for about 6:30. So yeah, that was pretty much the typical day. So now for some of the highlights of the week. So for me, my overall experience with the week is, it's like, as always, whenever I'm in court, I really enjoy it and I really like learning hands-on that way. But, and there's always a but, I don't know, it just doesn't feel 100% me, and I can't see myself doing that as a job, which is a shame, because it's one of them things that I think I would love to want to do it, but it's just not me, you know? So yeah, but I did really, really enjoy it, and obviously I had a different person each day. I got to do a mixture of civil and criminal. So in the criminal, we did bail application, sentence hearings, full trials, and then civil, I just got to see trials, and obviously then on top of all that you get to do client handling and briefing, like put arguments together and help the barrister that way. And so you get to do like a whole full range of stuff, which obviously my legal skills module at uni really, really helped me with that. Yeah, so the highlights of the week, damn, seriously interesting lines of argument. The best one, basically it was a sentence hearing, and they were going through the argument that the defendant put forward for themselves, and he basically punched this woman outside of a nightclub, and his line of argument for it in his defence was, he was like, I didn't punch her, I had my hand in a fist, like, out, and she ran into it like really hard, and yeah, I didn't punch her though. And I remember the judge responded with, well, she must have been running pretty hard, because she ended up getting like a broken jaw. And I was like, yeah, she must have been running fucking hard to get a broken jaw if she just ran into your fist. Everybody in that courtroom full on just turned at him and was like, is he for real? Is he actually pursuing this right now? But anyway. Oh, another one that was good, it was like the barristers are here, I was here, and then obviously the defendant's in his box here. So basically whenever they asked the defendant how did he plead to certain crimes, he looked at the barrister would then turn around and be like, guilty! And then he'd be like, oh, guilty! Okay, so he was pleading to like 5 crimes. Just got to the point where it was funny. Oh yeah, conspiracy to steal, guilty. Oh, I think I'm guilty. I think it was this Tuesday or Wednesday, so it was like midweek, and it was a civil case. Basically, they were opening the case, and my barrister was like, oh, Your Honour, would you like a full or a brief opening? He full on responded with, I've read the papers, this isn't my first rodeo, let's get on with it, call your witness. It's always the judge's remarks that I find so funny, because, I don't know, you paint out this idea in your head that judges are like, the stereotyping that they're stuffy and that they're old or whatever, but a lot of them are really funny. They just say these like quick one-liners, and you just like, the whole courtroom laughs. A good one that was like in a civil case was when she was giving her evidence and being cross-examined and stuff. She was like laughing a lot, she wasn't really taking it seriously, and the whole time I was like, CBA for this woman, like just dismiss the case, whatever, like, you know she's lying.
Why you always lying? Oh my god.
And at the end of the case, basically, because she had a court protection against her for costs, it was like a no win, no fee. So if she lost, she wouldn't have to pay anything. At the end, because they dismissed the case, they basically turned around and said, I'm going to pursue a dishonest claim, which then lifts the court order thing. She then has to pay the cost. When the judge was full on deciding whether he would accept that this is a dishonest claim and therefore lift the court order to pay costs, he literally said, he was like, well, let's see if she finds this funny. And then poof, lifted the order, and he was like, ordered to pay 10 grand, in her face just like freaking dropped. And I remember just thinking like, Oh, the sass of doing that. I remember one thing that just sticks in my mind other than all of that. So what happened was when I was doing one of the days of crime, I was with my barrister Tim, and we had met with our defendant a few times in the morning. He came to court, he was doing A-okay. Then after lunch he just kind of disappeared, like it just left. It was a floating case, so we didn't really have a courtroom, and so it wasn't really like that much of an issue. Tim was like, well, we'll find him, like, fine. And then out of nowhere we got a court, and it was like, yeah, the trial is going to start in 10 minutes, like, let's go find him. And the judge was coming down, and Tim kind of he was like, I've got a man in the courtroom, the judge is coming down, he's gonna be pissed off if the defendant's not here, and he'll want to start without him, and that's not good. So he was like, I've got to stay here, man the fort, can you go and find him? And I was like, you want me to go and find a defendant for a criminal charge on my own? Okay, so overall it was really good. Obviously I got to experience a lot of things. Last time it was criminal, but then this time obviously a mix of crime, a mix of civil. I got to help with trials, help with clients. Basically had more responsibility, which I really, really enjoyed. And overall, Park Square barristers were bloody brilliant in organising it and giving me a whole range of things to do, and I feel like I really, really learned a lot in a space of a few days. Yeah, I think that concludes this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was a bit insightful of what goes down on a mini-pupillage and some of the crazy things people say in court. Yeah, and I will see you in the next video. I'll see you next week. Bye guys.